So today we'll be discussing about the cranial nerve palsies, mainly the third, fourth and sixth cranial nerve palsies. And mainly I want to discuss the Park 3-step test. Okay, the Park 3-step test has been asked many number of times. So today we'll be mainly discussing about the Park 3-step test. Okay, so let's begin the 3, 4 and 6th cranial nerve palsy. Okay, before we start the 3, 4 and 6th cranial nerve palsy, we should know about the motor function of each of the cranial nerves, the motor function and the parasympathetic function. Okay, so remember the third cranial nerve, it supplies the motor supply to the medial rectus, the superior rectus, the inferior rectus and the inferior oblique. Okay, so a simple way to remember is LR6 and SO4. So the sixth cranial nerve supplies the lateral rectus and the fourth cranial nerve supplies the superior oblique. Okay, the fourth cranial nerve or the trochlear nerve supplies the superior oblique. The sixth cranial nerve supplies the lateral rectus. So the motor function is to the medial rectus, superior rectus, inferior oblique, and the levator palpebral superioris. The levator palpebral superioris is the one which elevates the eyelid. The parasympathetic supply of the third cranial nerve is to the muscles of the iris and the ciliary body. So I told you when we discussed yesterday, the postganglionic parasympathetic nerve fibers. Okay, the postganglionic parasympathetic nerve fibers to the iris and ciliary body is through the short posterior ciliary nerves, which supply the iris sphincter pupillae. Okay, via the inferior oblique, via the nerve to the inferior oblique. Okay, so this is the parasympathetic nerve supply. The trochlear nerve supplies the superior oblique. Another important main mnemonic to remember about the functions of the cranial nerve. Okay, so remember a mnemonic: syn, rad, obs, abs. So this mnemonic is very useful. LR6 and SO4. LR6, SO4, I told you, lateral rectus supplied by the sixth cranial nerve. SO4 is the fourth cranial nerve. So syn, rad stands for superior muscles are intortars. Syn stands for superior muscles are intortars. Rad, recti are adductors. Obs, abs stands for obliques are abductors. So this simple mnemonic will help us when we are discussing about the Park 3-step test. Okay, so syn, rad, obs, abs, LR4, SR6, superior muscles are intortar, recti are adductors, obliques are abductors. Second important thing you have to remember is that the recti are tested, the vertical recti are tested in abduction, that is the vertical recti, mainly your superior and the inferior recti, they maximally act in abduction, while the obliques are tested in adduction. So this, if you know this clearly, the Park 3-step test is very easy to understand. Okay, so with this mnemonic, that is syn, rad, obs, abs, LR6 and SO4, recti tested in abduction, obliques are tested in adduction. Okay, so remember this. I will tell you how we make use of it in the Park 3-step test. Okay, so here we have a patient. You see in the primary position, the patient has ptosis. The position of the eyeball is down and out. Okay, the position of the eyeball is down and out. So this is a classical left-sided third cranial nerve palsy. Third cranial nerve palsy. Again, third cranial nerve palsy can be pupillary involved or pupillary spared. There's a separate slide where I'll be discussing about the pupillary involved and the pupillary spared third cranial nerve. Okay, so here we have a patient with left-sided hypertropia. This is a case of a left-sided superior oblique palsy. So in superior oblique palsy, we'll be discussing about the Park 3-step test and how we use the Park 3-step test to come to the diagnosis of the vertical muscle involved. Okay, so here you can make out that in the primary position, the patient is normal. The dextroversion, that is the right side view, is normal, but when the patient is trying to do levoversion, the left-sided lateral rectus is not functioning properly. So this is a left-sided sixth cranial nerve palsy or left-sided lateral rectus palsy. Okay, so this again, in a third cranial nerve, the patient will have ptosis, the eyeball will be down and out. In fourth cranial nerve, the eye will be hypertropic. Sixth cranial nerve, the patient will not be able to abduct the eyeball. Okay, so this is This table will show the easy way to remember the functions of the cranial nerve and the position of the eyeball. Okay, now coming to the most important test, that is the Park 3-step test. Okay, in Park 3-step test, we have to know about 3 things. Okay, first thing, step 1. So I'll write it down neatly here. An empty slide, but write it down. So first is the step 1. Step 1, we have to find out which eye is hypertropic. Okay, so which eye is hypertropic? So in our example, if they mention it as the patient has a right-sided hypertropia. So how will you find out right-sided hypertropia? You do a cover uncover test and you see which eye is hypertropic. Is the right eye hypertropic or is the left eye hypertropic? In the patient, in this example, we have a patient with right-sided hypertropia. So right-sided hypertropia, the patient can have either weakness of the depressors of the right eye, or the patient can have weakness of the elevators of the left eye. Weakness of the left eye elevators. So which are the right-sided depressors? So in the right depressors, we have right-sided superior oblique, right-sided inferior rectus. Next, in the left-sided elevators, we have left-sided superior rectus and left-sided superior oblique. So first step in the Park 3-step test is to find out which eye is hypertropic. Do a cover uncover test, find out which eye is hypertropic. So if the right eye is hypertropic, it can either be because of the weakness of the right depressors or it can be because of the weakness of the left elevator. So which are the right depressors? Superior oblique and the inferior rectus. The left elevators are the left superior rectus and the left superior oblique. So in the step 2, he mentions that hypertropia worsens in which case? We have to find out hypertropia worsens in which case. So in which gaze does hypertropia worsen? So here he mentions it as right gaze. Right gaze, the hypertropia worsens. So what did I tell you previously? The recti are tested in abduction, while the obliques are tested in adduction. So if the patient has a right-sided hypertropia, in this example, we have a right-sided hypertropia which is worsening on left gaze. Okay, so we have a right-sided hypertropia which is worsening on left gaze. So if it is left gaze, what is happening to the left eye? The left eye is abducting. So the patient will have left abduction and the patient will have right eye adduction. So which is the recti in the left eye? In the left eye, the recti which is present is the left-sided superior rectus. Which is the oblique which is present in the right eye? The right eye, we have the superior oblique. So from 4 muscles, we came down to 2 muscles. We came down to either right-sided superior oblique or it is a left-sided superior rectus. So the last step is the step 3, which is the Bialchowski's test. Okay, step 3 test is the Bialchowski's test. So we have to find out in which the hypertropia is worsened in which sided head tilt. Okay, in this case we have which sided head tilt? We have hypertropia worsening on the right sided head tilt. Okay, in this case we have the hypertropia worsening on right head tilt. Okay, so remember, in right head tilt, what happens when the patient turns the head to the right? Because of the counter rolling mechanism of the eyeball, the right eye intorts, the right eye goes inwards, or the right eye intorts. And what happens to the left eye? The left eye will extort. So for intorsion, what did I tell you? The mnemonic: sin, rad, obs, abs. So the superior muscles will help in intorsion. So which is the superior muscle which we have in the right eye which helps in intorsion? It is the right-sided superior oblique. So the answer for this question is right eye superior oblique. So first we have to find out in which eye is hypertropic. Second, we have to find out in which gaze the hypertropia increases. Third, we have to find out the hypertropia worsens on which head tilt. Okay, so this is the Park 3-step test. So hopefully I have explained it. You have understood the Park 3-step test is very important. Okay, so the same. So here we have the hypertropia worsening on the right gaze, and the right head tilt. So in this question we have a left-sided inferior oblique. In the example I gave you, the head tilt was worsening on the hypertropia was worsening on left gaze, and the hypertropia was worsening on right head tilt. Okay, so this is right superior oblique. In the example given above, we have a left inferior oblique, again based on the same principle. Okay, Park 3-step test. Okay, you can also use this one. This is a little more complicated. The simple way to remember is the two mnemonics you have to remember. One is the SIN-RAD OPS abs. The second mnemonic you will have to remember is that the recti are tested in abduction, the obliques are tested in adduction. The third thing you have to remember, the Park 3-step test, the third part is the Bilchowski test, in which on turning to the same side, the ipsilateral eye undergoes intorsion, the contralateral eye undergoes extorsion. So intorsion in the same side, contralateral side, extorsion. So these three things, if you remember, it's very easy. Okay, so this table, it shows the site of the lesion and the cranial nerve involved and the signs and symptoms. Okay, so I'll not discuss all this in table. You can just take a screenshot of this. I'll just briefly discuss about the symptoms. See, Benedict's you have to remember is red nucleus. Red nucleus, the patient will have chorea, athetosis and tremors. Clods is because of the involvement of both the red nucleus and the brachium. Weber's is the corticospinal tract involvement. So all these three will have the third cranial nerve involvement along with the contralateral corticospinal tract involvement, contralateral abnormal eye movements, and contralateral cerebellar ataxia and tremors. Okay. Next is the Perinaut syndrome. Yesterday we discussed about Perinaut syndrome. The dorsal midbrain is involved. The paralysis of the up gaze will be there. There will be a convergence retraction nystagmus. The patient will have defective convergence. There is a light near dissociation. Another important thing is the Collier sign or the lid lag. Okay, the upper lid lag, or also known as the Collier sign. Okay, these three and Perinaut is very important. See, in the involvement of the pons, you have to mainly remember the Millier-Goodblood syndrome. In Millier-Goodblood syndrome, we have the 6th and the 7th cranial nerve involved along with the corticospinal tract. So the patient will have 6th cranial nerve palsy and the 7th cranial nerve palsy. Remember, isolated 6th cranial nerve palsies are never seen. Isolated 6th cranial nerve at the nuclear level are never seen, because the 6th cranial nerve lies very close contact with the facial colliculus, because the 6th cranial nerve lies in very close contact with the facial colliculus. So any nuclear lesion of the 6th cranial nerve will usually have an associated 7th cranial nerve. Remember this. Isolated 6th cranial nerve at the nuclear level is never seen, because the 6th cranial nerve lies in very close contact to the facial colliculus of the 7th cranial nerve. So the 6th and 7th cranial nerve nuclear lesions will coexist. Okay, both in your Millard-Goodblood, your Fovili, and your Raymond-Cisterns also. Okay, and in the lateral medullary, you remember the Wallenberg syndrome, when this lateral spinothalamic tract is involved, and the medial medullary syndrome, also known as the Digerine syndrome. The Digerine syndrome or the medial medullary syndrome, there is involvement of the corticospinal and the lemniscus tract. Okay, so this table is from your Harrison's, the latest Harrison's textbook of medicine. So you can just take a screenshot and go through all these cranial nerve palsies. Okay, this is very important. The midbrain pons and the level, the involvement of the 3rd, the 6th, 7th, and the medullary involvement. Okay, the 12th cranial nerve. Okay, so previously I told you that in diabetes and hypertension, there is a pupillary sparing type of 3rd cranial nerve palsy. So they'll ask you, why is the pupillary sparing type of cranial nerve palsy seen in case of microvascular lesions like diabetes and hypertension? So what you have to remember, that the vasa nervosum, the central part of the 3rd cranial nerve, which supplies the blood supply to the 3rd cranial nerve, does not have the pupillomotor fibers. The pupillomotor fibers are present superficial. So the pupillomotor fibers are superficial. Whereas diabetes and hypertension, it is the vasa nervosum which is involved. The vasa nervosum does not supply the pupillomotor fibers. Hence, the pupillary sparing occurs in diabetes and hypertension. Whereas any superficial tumor compressing upon the 3rd cranial nerve, superficial fibers of the 3rd cranial nerve will result in the pupillary involvement. The pupillary involvement is absent or spared in diabetes and hypertension, because the vasa nervosum, which is involved in diabetes mellitus, is present centrally. It is not superficial. Okay. So okay, we have this was the recent question from the NEET. This was a recent question from the recent NEET. So we have a patient with right-sided hypotropia. So right-sided hypotropia means it's a left-sided hypertropia. Okay, so the patient has right hypotropia. which is increased on dextroversion. Dextroversion is on the right side. Okay, and the patient has a right head tilt. So quickly we'll go through the answer. So what did I tell you? The 3-step test. So right-sided hypertropia means the patient has a left-sided hypertropia, which means that there is weakness of either the depressors of the left eye or the elevators of the right eye. So the elevators of the right eye include the right superior rectus and the right inferior oblique. The depressors of the left eye include the left inferior rectus and the left superior oblique. So next what he says, it is worsened on dextroversion. On dextroversion, what happens? The right eye is abducting, the left eye is adducting. Which muscle is tested in abduction? The recti is tested in abduction. So which is the recti present in the right eye? We have the right-sided superior rectus. Which is the oblique which is present in the left eye? We have the left-sided superior oblique. Last is the Bilchowski's test. So Bilchowski's test, what does he say? He says that the diplopia is worsening on the right head tilt. So when the patient tilts his head to the right, what happens? Because of the counter-rolling mechanism of the eyeball, there is an intorsion of the right eye involved and there is an extorsion of the left eye. So which is the intortor? We need a superior muscle in the right eye. So answer will be right-sided superior rectus. Okay, so this was asked in the recent AIIMS exam. So recent NEET PG. So remember, always you have to remember two things. One is the SINRAD, OBS, ABS, LR6 and SO4. Second thing you'll have to remember is the recti are tested in abduction and the obliques are tested in adduction. And the third test, the part 3 of the 3-step test or the Bilchowski test, the side towards which the diplopia is worsened. Okay, so if it is on the right side, it means that the right eye is intorting, the superior muscle is involved in the right eye. Okay, a slightly dilated pupil remains as it is even in the dark room. So what is your diagnosis? Okay, so the pupil is dilated and in the dark room also it remains dilated. This again is the question which was asked in the recent NEET PG. So the answer is a blind eye. Okay, so what did I tell you? Third nerve palsy, the patient will have a dilated pupil along with ptosis and abnormal, the eyeball is down and out. In Horner's, we discussed Horner's in detail. So the patient will have ptosis, anhidrosis, enophthalmos. Holmes-Ades pupil, the patient will have a slow near and light reflex. It is a slow reaction pupil. The patient will have absent deep tendon reflex. It is also known as a vermiform pupil. You should remember mainly the denervation hypersensitivity to low dose pilocarpine, as low as 0.125% pilocarpine. When you put pilocarpine, the pupil will suddenly constrict. Second, you have to remember about the Argyll-Robertson pupil. Argyll-Robertson pupil, how will you remember? ARP, accommodation reflex present, light reflex absent. So the patient will have a light near dissociation, the most common cause being diabetes, second most common cause being neurosyphilis. Midbrain lesions, I told you, midbrain lesions, the patient will have coma and there will also be the lateralizing sign. So which side the involvement is there. And in involvement of the pons, when there is a pontine stroke, the patient will have coma, the patient will have hyperventilation and hyperpyrexia. So these are the important pupillary reactions. So pupillary reactions yesterday we discussed in detail. Okay, so in the next class we'll be discussing about retina. So I'll be stopping the class for today. Hopefully this class is useful.
Best training, peaceful environment, PG medical entrance exam preparation were my expectations. I got them at Speed Medical Village in Kanchipuram. Today I am a PG topper.
Speed Medical Village, a unique eco-friendly campus dedicated for PG preparation. Speed Medical Institute, a complete solution for medical education.